Legend has it that there's a mysterious secret organization protecting China called Qilin. The 108 members in this group are all 1 in a million elite masters. They can literally move mountains and fill oceans, and track down dragon veins to locate ancient tombs. And yet, a dead last loser of an archaeology student like me is actually a member of Qilin. All because during a courage testing exam in an ancient tomb, I killed 1,000-hand rakshasa with my bare hands, becoming the sole survivor of that exam. When I, covered in cuts and bruises, finally crawled out of that ancient tomb, I saw a squad of heavily armed, locked and loaded archaeology experts ready for a rescue mission. It was only then that I realized Tomb Zero might have been a test site, but during its initial excavation, because it was meant for testing freshmen, they had supposedly cleared out all the hazards. Nobody ever expected that we'd run straight into a newly awakened 1,000-hand rakshasa. So this little courage test, right from the start, went from normal mode straight into hell-level difficulty. But before I even had the chance to curse them out, the extreme terror finally caught up to me, and I collapsed face first onto the truck. Vaguely, I could hear the dean mutter, "You've caught their eye. They're coming to pick you up tomorrow." So, the very next day, this old guy tracked me down. He gave me 2 choices. 1, forget everything that happened down in that tomb, and live out a perfectly ordinary, boring life. Or 2, join us, explore deadly ancient tombs, and witness the nation's greatest hidden treasures. After sitting there completely dumbfounded for 10 seconds, I cautiously asked, "Who the hell are you guys, exactly? Have you ever heard of Qilin? Qilin?" Hearing that name, I couldn't help but gasp in shock. Among us students, there had always been this wild rumor. Why is it that here, in the land of China, despite enduring thousands of years of brutal wars, so many of our national treasures have survived perfectly intact? Well, that's because there's a mysterious group of people guarding them from the shadows. These people who hide in the dark, acting as the guardian beasts of our nation. Within the Qilin organization, the ordinary members are known as Silver Qilin. The elites are called Golden Qilin. But those absolute legends standing at the very top carry black blades as a mark of supreme glory. They are known as the Black Blade Qilin. Thinking about all this, I pinched my thigh hard again, and the sharp pain flaring up from my unhealed wounds sent a tearing sensation through my body, proving to me that I wasn't just dreaming. Qilin actually exists, and this guy sitting right in front of me, inviting me to join, is actually a Black Blade Qilin. The old guy just smiled warmly and led me to the car. The school bus drove slowly down East Street. But seriously, why did they pick me? I racked my brain but just couldn't figure it out. So, I just closed my eyes and tried to get some rest. The old guy seemed pretty chatty. He told me to just call him Old Zhang. He told me that when he first started out in this business, he was even more nervous than I was. He said his hands would shake so badly while holding his dagger that he didn't even dare to stab a zombie in the gut, making a total fool of himself back then. But after seeing enough blood, he eventually stopped being afraid of it. Old Zhang had this constant smirk on his face. "So, for you to single-handedly take down that 1,000-hand rakshasa in Tomb 1102? That's already pretty damn impressive." But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that the real reason they wanted me in Qilin, it wasn't that simple at all. After I kept pressing him for answers, Old Zhang finally confessed. The Qilin organization is made up of exactly 108 members, and they only ever recruit newbies under very special circumstances. Old Zhang suddenly slammed on the brakes. He sat in silence for a long time before speaking. "Half a year ago, my apprentice died. It was my fault. I underestimated the danger level of that tomb, and I dragged him down with me. He was torn to shreds by a golden-furred monster hiding inside. Even now, I still can't forget the final look in his eyes right before he died. Was he blaming me for leaving him behind? Did he regret ever joining Qilin? The group will always have exactly 108 members. So, you're taking his place. From now on, you're my apprentice." Smoke swirled over Old Yang's face, hiding an expression I couldn't quite read. Neither of us said another word after that. We drove for a full day and night, before finally pulling up to a pitch-black, 4-story building. There were no signs on the outside, not even a department name. It just stood there in the middle of nowhere, towering like a giant tombstone. The entrance to the black building was a long, dark corridor. At both ends, guards dressed in black tunic suits were standing watch. But the second I stepped inside, my jaw practically hit the floor. Who would have thought that such a plain-looking building had been completely modernized on the inside? They didn't just have imported elevators, they even had an automated underground parking garage. My ears were ringing with the constant beep 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 of telegraph machines. Old Zhang explained that the first floor was the intelligence department, basically the ears of the Qilin organization. If a major tomb was discovered anywhere in the country, the news would instantly land right on Qilin's desk. They'd quickly calculate how dangerous the ancient tomb was, ranking it on a scale of A, B, C, or D. That way, they knew exactly which level of Qilin agents to send in. Of course, there were also S-class tombs. Those were usually rigged with deadly traps at every turn. Going in meant almost certain death, so they'd have to call in the elite Black Blade Qilins. Old Zhang led me further inside, taking the escalator up. The second floor was the archives, pretty much the brains of Qilin. Because the books kept there were almost exclusively one-of-a-kind original manuscripts. They were packed with knowledge about ancient tombs and secret dragon hunting guides. There were also highly classified files on all the bizarre supernatural cases Qilin had handled over the years. The third floor was the living quarters for the Qilin members. But old Zhang didn't show me the fourth floor. He said the fourth floor held the organization's deepest secrets. A rookie like me wasn't allowed up there at all. After that, old Zhang handed me a fresh change of clothes and set me up in a small dorm room. He told me to get used to the place, and then just left. Everyone in the building had their own thing going on. I was the only one treated like a ghost. I asked everyone I bumped into about where old Zhang went, but no one would even give me the time of day. For a whole week, old Zhang didn't show up again. I was practically going crazy from boredom, so I just holed up in the second floor archives, reading through classified files day and night. And while digging through those top-secret files, I stumbled upon a mind-blowing secret. Back in 1921, a massive torrential downpour hit the Highland River. It washed up a massive, 10-meter-long dragon-like creature. Washed up on the shore, and was found by the local fishermen. Qilin immediately locked down the area, and set that flood dragon free. Following the direction the dragon escaped, they found a North Sea dragon pearl. In 1930, the foreign thief, Anthony, publicly murdered the tombkeepers. He plundered the Qing dynasty imperial tombs, and even tried to smuggle the artifacts out of the country. But the very next day, Anthony was found dead in his home, his heart mysteriously ripped right out of his chest. The only clue left behind was a black Qilin painted on the wall, while every single piece of the stolen treasure was safely returned to the Piping Museum. There were countless other incidents just like this, and to my shock, Qilin was behind every single one of them. For several of these massive tombs, old Zhang even led the expeditions himself. I know this because, in the bottom right corner of the files, I saw his name, Zhang Donghu. Days blurred into a loop of eating, sleeping, and reading files. Qilin's secret library completely shattered my worldview. Those rare manuals on dragon veins, feng shui, and tomb raiding. Those one-of-a-kind, lost techniques, they really made me feel like my 3 years at the Archaeology Academy were a total waste of time. Finally, after I had been laying low here for a whole month, old Zhang finally showed up. He told me to hurry up and pack a few changes of clothes and come with him to a certain place. After a month of boredom, I was absolutely thrilled. Do I finally get something to do? Hurry up and tell me, what mission are we going on? I followed him downstairs like an eager puppy. Kid, don't celebrate just yet. Old Zhang looked me up and down with a sly smirk, and then pulled out crumpled piece of stationery from his pocket, shaking it open for me to see. But the paper didn't say where we were going, or what we were doing. It just had one line of text, Shushui Village District. The handwriting was completely frantic, like it was scribbled down in a life or death emergency. But it was the back of the page, a massive, blood-red letter S. That instantly gave me full-body goosebumps. My vision went dark and my legs nearly gave out. I'm just a rookie. I haven't even officially joined Qilin yet. Why the hell am I being sent on an S-rank mission? Seriously, I barely made it out alive when I fought off that 1,000-hand demon, and that was just a measly C rank. Are you trying to get me killed? I protested, practically going on strike right then and there. Be honest with me, did you have a bunch of apprentices before me that you just sent straight to their graves like this? Old Zhang didn't even get mad. We're out of time, I'll explain everything on the way. And just like that, I was essentially kidnapped by old Zhang and dragged onto a train. Our destination was Shushui Village, a remote farming community hidden deep within the mountains of western Fujian. It all started a month ago. The villagers of Shushui were out tending their crops, when suddenly, the sky turned pitch black, and an absolute downpour began. It rained non-stop for 7 days and 7 nights, eventually triggering a massive mudslide on the back mountain. But the weird thing was, the streams of mud flowing down the mountain weren't your normal muddy brown. They were blood red. From a distance, it looked like trails of bloody tears. The villagers watched helplessly as their fields were washed into a pool of blood. They prayed to the heavens but no one answered. Suddenly, a massive lightning bolt struck the back mountain, shattering the rocks. Right after that, a pitch-black, rectangular object came tumbling down along with the blood-red mudslide. The braver villagers stepped closer to take a look, only to find that it was actually a pitch-black coffin. The villagers cursed their bad luck. But that coffin was just like Pandora's box. It lured everyone in, and eventually, they pried the coffin open. To their surprise, there was no body inside, only heavy copper coins and some jewelry. Shushui Village was a notoriously poor village in western Fujian. So, they decided to take a desperate risk and sell those coins and jewelry. From the antique dealer, they learned that those copper coins were called Qilin Tongbao, and a single string of them could be exchanged for 10 brand new silver dollars. The village chief believed this heavy rain was a blessing from above, and that the coffin was God taking pity on Shushui Village, rewarding them with a literal fortune from the grave. So, even though the bloody water was still dripping down, the villagers didn't run away. Instead, every single household dragged out their little stools and sat by the water, just waiting for a new coffin to wash down. Sure enough, not even 2 days later, another new coffin washed down. This time, the stuff inside was even more valuable. Besides the copper coins, there were actual gold ingots. Then came the third coffin. This was what Qilin's informant managed to find out after the fact. This informant didn't even know what was inside that third coffin either. He only knew that after something went wrong with the third coffin, Shushui Village completely lost contact with the outside world. The antique dealer, seeing that his business had gone dead, anxiously went into the mountains to look for them, only to witness an incredibly bizarre scene. Entire Shushui Village, all 50+ households, were completely empty. They definitely didn't just pack up and leave in secret, because in some houses, the stoves were still hot. Their secret stash of money was still locked in the cabinets, and even their clothes were all hanging outside to dry. But the people, including their pigs, dogs, chickens, and ducks, had all vanished without a trace. Antique dealers deal with a lot of taboos. He knew right away that they must have met with some terrible catastrophe. Not daring to stick around, he got on his horse and fled straight down the mountain. While fleeing through the woods, he actually stumbled upon a raving lunatic. The guy had drool dripping from the corner of his mouth. But looking closely at his face, it was the village chief's son, Kong Ergo. Just as he was about to step forward and ask him what happened, a blood-curdling scream rang out. Ghosts. White-faced ghosts. They're coming to get me. The news spread quickly. Qilin's informant was absolutely certain that there was a rare and vicious tomb near Shushui Village, one capable of easily wiping out an entire town. That's why he reported it as an emergency. After reading through the stack of files old Zhang handed over, I furrowed my brows and voiced my own theory. The Qilin Tongbao coins in the coffin mean this tomb definitely dates back to around the Tang dynasty. During the Tang dynasty, western Fujian was completely a barren wasteland. I'm guessing the tomb's owner was an exiled minister. The pouring rain must have flooded the ancient tomb, and then it was struck wide open by lightning, which completely shattered the seal inside the tomb, causing all that bloody water to seep out. According to the ancient records of the classic of the southern regions, blood variants and blood corpses love to bewitch the living, using them to nourish their own flesh and blood, can actually cause physical harm. So, I suspect this tomb might have actually gained a mind of its own. The first 2 coffins were just bait, deliberately thrown out to exploit the greed of these villagers. The third coffin is where the true terror lies. It's the white face that Kong Ergo saw. But what the hell is that white-faced spirit anyway? I really have no idea. And it's the unknown. That's truly the most terrifying. Old Zhang was actually highly impressed by my analysis. He told me that this time, they didn't just send one Black Blade Qilin like him. Another Black Blade Qilin will be meeting up with us at Shu Shui village. Don't be so terrified of dying. Along the way, just listen to what we say, and watch what we do. That's it, old Zhang chuckled eerily. My cheek immediately twitched, dispatching 2 Black Blade Qilins. It seems things are way more serious than I imagined. The train finally pulled into Ninghua County. The very first thing old Zhang did after getting off was head to the market to buy a golden-coated tortoiseshell cat. I asked him what on earth he bought that for. He said it was for my own protection, but hopefully, we wouldn't need to use it. With that, he tossed the cat carrier right into my arms. We were still over 10 kilometers away from Shu Shui village. We planned to rent a horse carriage, but the moment they heard we were going to Shu Shui village, the carriage drivers, who were just arguing over our business, all froze in unison. Their faces instantly turned pale with absolute terror. A few groups of outsiders had come through the county recently, all specifically asking to go to that exact place. In the end, none of them ever came back. No matter what we offered, they absolutely refused to go to Shu Shui village. Finally, old Zhang decided to just buy a carriage and drive us to Shu Shui village himself. On the way there, old Zhang asked me what intel I managed to get out of the drivers. I thought for a second and said, the news that there's an ancient tomb hidden in Shu Shui village is probably out in the open now. The secret has already leaked. Those outsiders were most likely tomb raiders. But if we head over now, we should still make it in time. It seems they've suffered some massive casualties. Old Zhang nodded in satisfaction. After driving the carriage for a few hours just like that, there finally appeared before us 2 towering mountains. The mountains looked exactly like a pair of Buddha's hands, cradling Shu Shui village right in the middle. The Buddha's hands grasping the god of literature. This was originally a phenomenal feng shui layout. If it were ancient times, this village could have produced a top imperial scholar. But now, this treasured land that could birth a literary god has turned into a cursed breeding ground for corpses. Dark, ominous clouds heavily shrouded both mountain peaks. Even though there had just been a light drizzle, the air was still constantly thick, with a faint, almost untraceable stench of blood. We followed that bloody scent all the way to a small cave dwelling halfway up the mountain. The cave looked like the gaping maw of a monster, swallowing up all the sunlight around it. Just then, echoing from deep inside the cave, came fits of sinister, cackling laughter. It sounded like someone furiously scraping the back of their throat, forcing out a laugh on purpose, or like fingernails violently screeching against glass. Just hearing it once sent violent shivers down my spine, leaving me completely covered in goosebumps. What do we do? I threw old Zhang a desperate, pleading look. But old Zhang just pointed straight at the cave, motioning for me to go in first. With no other choice, I nervously drew my dagger. Slung across my chest, I flicked on the flashlight and crawled inside. This cave was littered with broken bricks. It must have been where the mountain rangers used to live. Ever since Shu Shui village was wiped out, this place has been completely abandoned. But then, what was with that laughter coming from deep inside the cave? Right as I was thinking, I was suddenly startled by the scene appearing right in front of me. On the walls of the cave, there were actually big and small red human faces painted all over, in fresh blood. Some were smiling, while others had their mouths wide open, screaming. These faces were drawn so abstractly, barely at the level of a 3-year-old kid. But for some reason, they gave me this feeling of unprecedented, bone-chilling fear. Right at that moment, ha ha ha, that creepy laughter echoed again. I took a deep breath, shining my flashlight around to look. Suddenly, a deathly pale face loomed right in front of my eyes. It was actually a guy on all fours, covered in gray dust, creeping just like a lizard. He just stared at me, grinning unblinkingly. His ghastly white teeth parted as he hissed, "Are you looking for me?" I swear, my soul nearly left my body right then and there. Thank God old Zhang was right behind me. He delivered a flying kick and knocked the guy away. It was only later that I found out. This man was the sole survivor of Shu Shui village, the village chief's son, Kong Go. Judging by the whip marks across his face, and the ropes binding his legs, he must have been caught by the tomb raiders who entered the mountain, and brutally tortured by them. His eyes were completely hollow and lifeless. No matter what I asked him, his only answer was a chilling, eerie laugh. That was until old Zhang pulled a small white pill out of his pocket and made me force-feed it to him. Only then did Kong Go finally stop his creepy giggling. This pill seemed to be a heavy-duty sedative, but its effects wore off incredibly fast. Because right after, old Zhang started firing off questions at lightning speed. He pointed straight at the wall and demanded, "Did you paint these faces?" "Why, yes, I did," Kong Go stammered. "Then where did everyone else in the village go? Why are you the only one here?" "Dead. My dad, third aunt, little Hua. They're all dead." "So much blood. White face, don't come for me. Don't catch me." Kong Go must have remembered something utterly horrifying. Scrambling into the corner of the cave to hide, but old Zhang dragged him right back out. "One last question. You've seen White Face, haven't you? Tell me what he looks like." "No, I don't know." That last question must have triggered him too much, because Kong Go burst into that creepy heh-heh laughter again. Even shoving another pill down his throat did nothing. What were we supposed to do? "Looks like we have to do this the hard way," old Zhang sighed. He told me to pin Kong Go down, no matter what it took. What happened next made the legend of the Black Blade Qilin even more mysterious in my mind. Because old Zhang actually pulled 2 silver needles right out of his leather wallet. Those needles were finer than a hair, and about as long as a middle finger. Old Zhang moved with lightning speed. In a flash, both needles vanished straight into the back of Kong Go's neck. Meanwhile, Lao Zhang was gently rolling the top of the needle between his fingers. Faint wisps of white smoke drifted through his fingers, and his face kept flushing red, then turning pale. It was just like someone channeling inner energy in those martial arts novels. And in that very instant, Kong Go's vacant eyes suddenly sparked back to life. It was as if his lost soul had been pulled right back into his body. Lao Zhang placed a blank piece of paper and a fountain pen right in front of him. "Hurry," he urged anxiously. "Draw the white face you saw. Draw it now." It worked like magic. Kong Go actually followed Lao Yang's command. Except, he didn't use the pen. Just like when he drew those creepy faces on the wall. He bit down hard on his own finger, and started scribbling with his fresh blood. He kept giggling eerily as he drew, "White face. Hee, white face." Every single second dragged on in agonizing slow motion. Until finally, with a heavy thud, Kong Go collapsed onto the dirt. Only then did Lao Zhang let go of the silver needle, gasping heavily for air. Looking at the wet, blood-soaked paper in that instant, I felt like I had been shoved right into a freezing ice hole in the dead of winter. Sketched onto the stark white paper was a sharp, triangular face. A completely blank face, with no eyes, and no nose. It only had a pair of striking, blood-red lips, just like those creepy paper dolls they burned during the Ghost Festival. I don't know if my mind was playing tricks on me. The drawing clearly didn't have any eyes, but I felt countless pairs of malicious eyes glaring out from it. Piercing right through my soul. Panic-stricken, I yelled for Lao Zhang to come look. Lao Zhang looked awful too. He said he needed to step out of the cave for a breather. To get his strength back. "Is that thing really that dangerous?" I asked him. Lao Zhang nodded grimly, then pulled out a sleek, silver revolver and fired a flare straight up into the sky. A burst of cold crimson light lit up the air. "So this must be one of those legendary flare guns. We need to get fourth sister over here right now. Otherwise, we're both gonna die in this cursed hellhole." Lao Zhang cursed, taking a deep, furious drag of his cigarette. Through his angry rants, I finally found out that the white face was actually a blood fiend, a terrifying monster you don't see even once in a century. When a blood fiend first breaks out of its coffin, it's nothing but a raw, skinned corpse. It's completely covered in blood and can only do basic slashing and hunting movements. At that stage, it isn't too scary. But the more fresh blood it drinks, the more it slowly grows new skin and facial features. And when that happens, its power explodes exponentially. That's exactly why this blood fiend laid low at first. Instead of exposing itself, it played on the greed of the Shu Shui villagers. It tricked them into prying open its coffin, and then slowly bled the entire village dry. One by one, to build up its strength. Right now, it's already grown its skin and mouth. If it manages to grow a nose and eyes, it'll be just one step away from becoming a full-blown corpse king. I asked Lao Zhang, was this fourth sister? He mentioned another one. Of the Black Blade Qilin? That's right, and her sword is the ultimate counter to that freak. As long as she gets here in time, we'll have a 90% chance of surviving this. Just as Lao Zhang and I were talking, A sudden, piercing cat's meow echoed from inside the cave. It sounded incredibly fierce, like a deadly warning to an approaching enemy. I suddenly remembered the one left in the cave. That golden-striped tortoiseshell cat. Oh no, something's wrong. Old Zhang reacted faster than me. He tossed his cigarette, and rushed into the cave in a few quick strides. By the time I frantically clicked on my flashlight, I saw the cat we brought up the mountain with its fur completely standing on end. Glaring with huge, bell-like eyes, baring its teeth, and growling viciously in one direction. And in that direction, Kong Go was actually hanged to death by a hemp rope. A madman, actually dying right under the noses of two grown men. That thing must have just been here. Kong Go was bewitched into killing himself. Old Zhang concluded after inspecting the body. It's just that the thing was way too fast. So fast that we couldn't even spot it. Only this little guy saw it. After speaking, Old Zhang pointed at the golden-striped tortoiseshell cat. It suddenly dawned on me. So that's why you bought it, and made me carry it the whole way. So it was for this exact purpose. Old Zhang explained, cats are close relatives to tigers. They're born with the hunting instincts of a wild beast. Plus, their sense of smell and sight are tens of thousands of times sharper than a human's. So no matter how fast the blood fiend is, the cat will still mistake it for an enemy invading its territory. If that blood fiend could take out Kong Go, why didn't it finish us off too? Because it's smart. It knows we're much harder to deal with than Kong Go. Have you ever heard of the cat and mouse game? Old Yang's words made my face completely drop. So the blood fiend wants to slowly torture us to death. It won't let a single person leave this mountain alive. Old Zhang said with a heavy expression. Let's go. We need to find its lair, fast. This blood fiend hasn't fully formed yet. Every night, it still has to return to the tomb to absorb the moonlight's essence. That's when it's at its weakest. With that, Old Zhang took the lead and continued up the mountain. I hurriedly scooped up the golden-striped tortoiseshell cat. This time, I actually found this fat cat incredibly pleasing to the eye. We soon arrived at Shushui village. The entire village was exactly like the intel we saw. It had become a complete ghost town. Old Zhang and I kicked open the doors one by one. Sure enough, we couldn't even find a single corpse. All the livestock had vanished too. We couldn't even hear a bird chirp. Behind the village, we found that river of blood, formed by the mudslide. By now, the blood river was so dark red that you couldn't see the bottom. It gave off a piercing, foul stench. The whole river flowed down from the mountaintop, looking just like a crimson ribbon. I found a glass bottle, wanting to scoop up some of the water, to study what this red substance really was under the light. After all, I graduated from the archaeology department. I know a thing or two about scientific research. But Old Zhang suddenly yelled, "Don't move." I had no idea what was happening, my foot freezing in midair as I took a step. It turned out, right there in the mud beneath my feet, was a row of bizarre shoe prints. Those footprints have a curved, crescent-like pattern. They definitely don't belong to the flat cloth shoes the villagers wear. Old Zhang squatted down, took a quick look, and said, "See these rows of anti-slip treads? These are Warrior brand hiking boots, exactly what grave robbers wear. Keep your voice down when we head up the mountain later. They're probably still prowling around the ancient tomb. But, what about this water, and the missing villagers? Are we just going straight for the tomb without figuring that out first? Didn't you always teach me? Know yourself and your enemy, and you'll never lose." I hesitated for a moment. Old Zhang just looked at me with a knowing smile. "You've only been my apprentice for one day, but you sure catch on fast. Once you climb to the top of the mountain, everything will make sense." Carrying a mind full of endless questions, I followed Old Zhang, climbing toward the summit along the muddy banks of that river of blood. Some stretches were incredibly steep and winding, so I had to pull out the grappling hook and climbing rope from my backpack. After all, with my background in archaeology, this kind of stuff is just basic survival skills. Just as I was about to toss the knotted rope over to Old Zhang, I saw him smirking as he practically flew up the steep slope. By the time Old Zhang was sitting leisurely at the summit, smoking a cigarette, I was just dragging my dripping wet, exhausted body up to the top. I was about to tell him how badass that was, but he just pointed down and told me to look. Looking down at the entire river of blood from the peak, the intense sunlight pierced right through the water. And I saw the riverbed was absolutely choked with corpses. Every single body was twisted into bizarre, unnatural positions. Some had their necks snapped 180 degrees. Others had their legs mangled into figure eights, but the most horrifying part was that their mouths were wide open, their deathly pale hands reaching up, as if screaming for help. They looked like some twisted performance artists. Macabre, bloody dolls. If old Zhang hadn't grabbed hold of me, I probably would have pitched face first right off the cliff. The sight was just absolute nightmare fuel. I never in a million years imagined that the dozens of missing villagers from Shushui village had all sunk to the bottom of this bloody river. This water brought them a sudden fortune, but it also became their watery grave. Keep looking at them. Once you've seen enough of this, you won't be scared when you face it again. Old Zhang said with a chilling calmness. It took me a full 30 minutes to compose myself before I could push deeper toward the summit with old Zhang. The intel mentioned that on a rainy night, a massive lightning bolt cracked the tomb wide open. On some of the loose rocks under our feet, you could already see the scorch marks from the lightning strike. It couldn't be far now. The closer we got, the more ridiculously careful we had to be. I even tied shut the mouth of the cat in my arms. Like they say in the old storyteller tales, silence the horses and gag the men, because it was highly likely a gang of grave robbers was camped out nearby. And sure enough, speak of the devil, we hadn't even pushed forward 100 meters before we spotted it. A massive, blood-red cave. The entrance was surrounded by shattered, jagged rocks. The truly terrifying part? You could hear the constant gurgling as bloody water bubbled and spilled out of the cave. Right at that moment, just outside the entrance, more than a dozen figures were gathered around. Every single one of them had machetes or crude shotguns tucked into their waistbands. They were stripped to the waist, showing off hard, heavily muscled bodies. They were muttering and grunting, sounding like they were in the middle of a heated argument. This crew must have been here for a couple of days already. You could tell, because right next to them were two pitched army green tents. Lao Zhang and I hid behind the pile of rocks. We could faintly see several wounded men lying inside the tents. Their faces were deathly pale, and they'd let out a groan every now and then. What struck me as weird was that all their injuries were on their arms. They were missing half their arms. This immediately reminded me of our trip here. The terrifying story the driver told us. Last night, an empty carriage came back on its own, hauling a whole cart full of bloody severed arms. Suddenly, the thieves started panicking, because one of their guys, who had just been lowered into the tunnel, came back up. The two men guarding the entrance had to drag him back up using the safety rope. He was completely covered in blood now, rolling on the ground and screaming in pure agony. I took a closer look at his wounds, and I instantly gasped in shock. Just like the wounded guys in the tents, both of his arms were completely gone. I looked at Lao Zhang in sheer terror. Is this tomb haunted? Why is everyone who goes in getting their arms chopped off? Lao Zhang just smiled and said, this must be a long, narrow tomb passage. It's surrounded by solid, natural basalt. Those grave robbers' tools can't widen it at all, so only one person can go down at a time. And at the end of the passage, there's a door. It's rigged with a specific trap. A mother-son yin-yang lock. Every time you try to unlock it, you have to stick your hand into a hidden hole in the door. If you make a mistake, your arm gets sliced right off. This is a masterpiece from the 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms era, made by a master of traps. So, it's highly likely to be a later Tang tomb inside. Later on, before you go in, you absolutely have to review all the Tang Dynasty traps. Right inside your head, I couldn't help but silently admire how incredibly sharp Lao Yang's eyes were. Standing outside the tomb, he could actually see through the entire structure just from a single clue. Wait a minute, what did he mean by that last sentence? We are currently surrounded by cold-blooded, ruthless grave robbers. How are we supposed to get inside the tomb? But before I could even process it, Lao Zhang just casually strolled right out of our hiding spot. I was so incredibly helpless. The leader of the grave robbers, known as Boss Zhang, instantly ordered his men to tie us up tight. Only then did the interrogation begin. But Lao Zhang didn't even bother saying a single word. He just told Boss Zhang to check his watch. What time is it right now? Boss Zhang flipped open his pocket watch and said, 6 p.m. Lao Zhang nodded. Then you guys have exactly 2 hours left to live. Take a good look at the sunset. This might just be the very last time in your lives that you ever get to see a sunset. Boss Zhang suddenly cocked his gun and jammed the barrel right against my forehead. What the hell do you mean? If you don't give me a damn good explanation right now, I'll shoot your son first. In just 1 hour, it'll be completely dark. The blood fiend will return to its nest to feed on the moonlight. Do you really think your pathetic little tricks can handle a blood fiend? Lao Zhang said calmly. Boss Zhang swallowed hard nervously. Don't you try to bluff me. A towering river of blood, sparing neither man nor beast. If you haven't even heard that saying, then you don't deserve to be the infamous boss of the Jin grave robbing gang, Zhang Yi Long. How the hell do you know my name is Zhang Yi Long? I also know exactly who chopped off that finger on your right hand. There is no treasure in this tomb, only a blood fiend that's about to reach full power. While there's still time, take your wounded and get out of here. As old Zhang spoke, he revealed what was hanging at his waist. That black short sword. You are a Qilin, a black blade Qilin. Boss Zhang's pupils shrank in fear. Yeah, any later, and she's probably gonna get mad. Old Zhang gestured with his chin, a smirk never leaving his face. Only then did I realize that, at some point, standing right above the blood pit was a woman in black, radiating a terrifying murderous aura. She was holding a sword, her robes fluttering in the wind. She was as breathtaking as a master's inkwash painting. Because she was wearing a black veil, I couldn't clearly see her face. But her eyes were as cold and unforgiving as eternal permafrost. Tucked into her waist was also a black short sword. Clearly, she was the one here to meet up with old Zhang, another black blade Qilin. For some unknown reason, when Boss Zhang saw this woman, he looked more terrified than if he'd seen the Grim Reaper himself. He quickly cut the ropes on me and old Zhang gave us a respectful salute with his fists, and took his dozen or so grave robbers, carrying the wounded, and scrambled down the mountain in disgrace. From start to finish, he didn't dare make a single peep. Old Zhang grinned, trying to butter up the woman in black. Fourth sister, you made it. I feel so much better now that you're here. Through their conversation, I learned that the woman in black was the 4th-ranked Black Blade Qilin. Her name was Helen Shui, and the sword in her hand was called Hellfire. It was the ultimate bane of all undead in the world. Boss Zhang's thumb had once been chopped off by her. No wonder Boss Zhang ran the moment he saw her. The three of us waded through the thick, bloody water and entered the cave. The entire blood pit was pitch black. Relying on the dim light of the flashlight, I saw various terrifying little figures carved into the walls of the tomb passage. Each one was glaring and baring its teeth, looking absolutely horrifying. It was completely different from any ancient tomb I had ever seen. Usually, tombs follow the rule of treating the dead as if they were still alive, to bless their descendants with fortune, and the passages are always perfectly straight, making it easy for the tomb owner's soul to ascend to heaven. But this tomb was full of twists and turns, and carved with so many ominous little figures. It felt more like some kind of mysterious ritual or a suppression seal. And just as old Zhang had predicted, there really was a bronze door at the end of the passage. Painted on the door was a tomb guardian beast I had never seen before. With a green face and sharp fangs, it was unspeakably terrifying. From behind the door, a constant dripping sound could be heard. On the outside of the door, there were only 2 holes, just big enough to fit a person's arm reaching in to unlock it. Those 2 holes were already a gruesome sight. They were splattered with blood, and right below them lay a row of severed limbs that hadn't been cleared away in time. Just as I was stressing over how we were supposed to open the door, Helen Shui stepped aside, while old Zhang just smiled and reached his hand right in. Old Zhang, I cried out anxiously, but old Zhang just turned around, completely unfazed, and said, relax. There is no lock in this world that I can't pick. As old Zhang fiddled with it, the clicking of mechanisms behind the door grew faster and faster. It was getting faster and faster, then suddenly, clang. It sounded just like a guillotine crashing down. Pull your hands back, I screamed, but old Zhang didn't even flinch. To my absolute shock, the blade stopped dead in its tracks, just a couple of inches away from his arms. Right after that, the tomb door slowly creaked open in front of us, revealing a faint glimmer of light. Inside stood a row of carved palace maids, holding lanterns. The light was coming from their eternal flames. Old Zhang calmly dusted off his sleeves, and signaled us to go in. My respect for the old man just went up another notch. Just how insane does a guy's mastery over ancient traps have to be to pull off something like that? Helen Shui noticed my jaw dropping and said, you'll learn to do all that eventually. I nodded, then pointed ahead, completely stunned. What kind of tomb is this? The main burial chamber in front of us was covered in bright, colorful murals painted with cinnabar, malachite, and azurite. They seemed to tell the story of a great general fighting on the battlefield, rising to absolute power, all the way to his death and burial. It was incredibly majestic, but right in the middle, there was a bottomless pit, and it was completely filled with a bloody liquid. It was bubbling and gurgling, like it was constantly boiling. Around the east, west, and south sides of the blood pit were 3 stone platforms. But the 3 burial coffins that should have been on them were completely gone. They must be the 3 coffins that got washed down the mountain in the flood. The first 2 were full of gold and jewels, but that last one held a blood fiend. Suspended right over the blood pit was the main coffin. But this one looked completely different from any coffin I'd ever seen. It wasn't a rectangle, it was diamond-shaped. It was bound by 3 bronze chains, each as thick as a man's arm, hanging upside down from the ceiling. Another seal? Just what exactly did the owner of this tomb do? How did a great ancient general turn into a condemned sinner that they wouldn't even let rest in peace? That hanging coffin looked like it could crash down at any second. Just looking at it gave me this incredibly heavy, suffocating feeling. A sudden chill ran right down my spine. How long until 7 o'clock? Helen Shui asked, frowning. Old Zhang checked his watch. Less than half an hour. Let's get into position. We need to take care of that returning blood fiend first, or we're not taking anything out of this tomb. As soon as Helen Shui finished speaking, Old Zhang pushed the heavy stone door, leaving it barely cracked open. Then he pulled a huge bag of white grains out of his pocket and scattered them all over the floor. I knew what it was, sticky rice. And not just any rice, it was aged sticky rice, at least 10 years old. Old Zhang and Helen Shui exchanged a quick glance, then leapt right up into the rafters. They were setting a trap. I looked up at them, completely panicking. So you guys can just fly up the walls, but what about me? I can't do that. Finally, Old Zhang told me to go hide behind the stone platform. He looked at me with serious concern and warned, whatever you do, remember. Whatever you see or hear in a minute, do not make a single sound. This isn't a fight you can handle. I nodded, staring at the tomb doors. I was terrified, yet strangely expectant. Every second dragged on. It was getting closer and closer to 7 o'clock. Honestly, I was a nervous wreck by then. Even the drip, drip, drip of water echoing in the cave made me think the Crimson Fiend was coming. Suddenly, up on the crossbeam, I saw Old Zhang draw his black blade halfway out of its sheath. Helen Shui, who had been resting with her eyes closed, snapped her eyes open. I knew we were in trouble. That monstrous thing had arrived. Sure enough, a bone-chilling laugh started echoing closer. The sound drifted through the tomb passage, shifting left and right, full of pure malice. I couldn't help but peek out, wanting to see this legendary Crimson Fiend. What did it actually look like? Was it any different from Kong or Go's drawings? And then, right in the gap between the heavy tomb doors, a deathly pale, pointed face appeared. The face was completely flat. It didn't even have eyes, but I could feel it, staring right through me. My eyes were wide with terror, staring right back. We froze like that for a few seconds, until I finally let out a piercing scream. Old Zhang shouted from the crossbeam, "It spotted you. Run, get further inside." I didn't even have time to think. I scrambled to my feet and ran for my life, but as I kept running, something felt completely wrong. This main burial chamber was a dead end. There was only one way in. Where the hell was I supposed to run? I glanced back and saw the Crimson Fiend lunge right inside after me. Its feet landed on the scattered sticky rice, hissing and sizzling like burning flesh. Everything clicked in my head. Old Zhang leaving me down here. He was using me as bait. He used the scent of a living human to lure this monstrosity into his trap. At that moment, I wanted to scream every curse word I had learned in my 20 years of life. But suddenly, Old Zhang roared, "Get down!" In the blink of an eye, Old Zhang and Helen Shui drew their blades simultaneously. 2 figures blurred past the fiend, crossing behind its back. For a split second, it felt like the wind died. The light vanished, and time just froze. There was only the dazzling flash of a cross-shaped strike, tearing through the Crimson Fiend's back like a bolt of lightning in the pitch dark. Watching that incredible strike, I instantly thought of an old poem. Twin blades of frosty steel cross in flight, cleaving the muddy river with their furious might. The Crimson Fiend let out a terrifying, blood-curdling shriek. The massive wound on its back bubbled violently, gushing out thick, crimson sludge. The stench was absolutely putrid. But that seemingly fatal blow didn't kill it. Instead, it only fueled its rage. To escape the burning sticky rice on the floor, it suddenly vaulted straight up to the ceiling. Its long, blood-red claws dug viciously into the solid rock. Its head snapped around a full 180 degrees, and locked its gaze right on me. It looked just like a sickly pale lizard clinging to the roof. I had no idea why this damn thing was so obsessed with hunting me down, no matter where I ran. Wherever the blood fiend leapt, those sharp, curved claws could even carve 5 deep gouges into the solid stone altar. "What do we do now?" I asked, my face completely covered in dirt. Old Zhang and the others were still a fair distance away from me. And they weren't nearly as fast as the blood fiend, so there was absolutely no way I could count on them right now. "Let the cat out," Old Zhang yelled. That's when I finally realized I still had a cat on me. I quickly ripped the cloth off the cat's mouth. Strangely enough, this tiny, golden-spotted tortoiseshell cat wasn't afraid of the blood fiend at all. Its fur puffed up, and it roared at the monster, looking just like a fierce tiger charging down a mountain. I took the chance to scramble up and head back to Old Zhang. "Follow the sticky rice, and don't look back," Old Zhang screamed, but the warning came too late. The moment I turned my head, I found myself face to face with that blood fiend. In a dizzying daze, I felt my body getting lighter and lighter, as if my soul was about to fly right out. That blood fiend's face clearly didn't have eyes, yet I saw a gaze filled with an endless dark magic. It was trying to drag me into another world. My eyes glazed over, and I couldn't move my arms or legs at all. Just when I thought I was about to become this thing's prey, a sharp, fierce battle cry suddenly echoed through the tomb, followed by the sharp clang of a sword being drawn. A longsword ruthlessly pierced right through the blood fiend's heart. It was He Lanshui. She was still holding the sword with one hand, kneeling gracefully on one knee, looking incredibly cold and heroic. And the part of the blood fiend that got stabbed instantly lit up like a match, bursting into clusters of black flames. The more the blood fiend struggled, the fiercer the flames burned. Eventually, it burned the monster down to nothing but a dry, withered skeleton, until it crumbled into ashes. No wonder Old Zhang said He Lanzu's sword was the absolute bane of the blood fiend. So this is the true meaning behind the sword's name, karmic fire. In Buddhist scriptures, karmic fire is the hellfire that can purify every single soul. Once the blood fiend was dealt with, we could finally relax and boldly open the main coffin. Even though this coffin was suspended in midair, it was no match for the 3 of us. After eyeing the distance, I rigged up a simple pulley system using some thick ropes. We quickly lowered the coffin to the ground. On the front of the diamond-shaped coffin, there was a line of ancient script, Tomb of the Traitor, Wen Dao. It's actually Wen Dao. I was completely shocked. Who would have ever thought that in this godforsaken, middle-of-nowhere Shushui village in western Fujian, we'd actually find the tomb of the most legendary grave robber in all of history. Legend has it, Wen Dao was a famously eccentric general during the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period. He was called eccentric because whether it was fighting wars or just going about his life, he always had this eerie, unpredictable vibe. Once, in just a single day and night, he led his gravedigger army straight into Luoyang, saving the emperor of that era. He was even crowned as a vassal king. What's more, his army never accepted a single ration of food or supplies from the imperial court. Marching in the dead of night, passers-by would sometimes even see this army carrying coffins and scattering spirit money. They'd dance as they advanced, exactly like a legion of the undead descending upon them. So, enemies would be scared out of their wits before swords even clashed. But the truth is, Wen Dao was actually a tomb raider. His men were all wandering bandits. So, wherever his gravedigger army went, they'd hollow out every single tomb in the area, looting all the rare treasures and splitting them equally. But the emperors? They just turned a blind eye to all of this. After all, what ruler wouldn't love a general who pays for his own army? But sadly, one day, Wen Dao suddenly dropped dead from an illness. The emperor even hosted a massive funeral for him, and that's exactly where his official historical records come to an end. But, what kind of disease did Wen Dao actually catch? And where did his gravedigger army vanish to after he died? It all became a mystery. After hearing me out, Old Zhang didn't say a word. It was true, the tomb right in front of us was full of bizarre contradictions. A top-tier general, crowned as a king, Yet he wasn't buried in the eastern capital of Luoyang after he died. Instead, he was exiled to this barren wasteland. And his tombstone? Branded with the word traitor. The coffin was even sealed shut. Seriously? Just how deep did this hatred and grudge go? But, I had this gut feeling. If we just opened that coffin, every single question would be answered. I shot old Zhang a knowing look. Old Zhang stayed quiet for a second, then finally muttered, "Let's open it." So, old Zhang and I pulled out our chisels and tools, slowly prying along the seam of the coffin lid, inch by inch. Who would have thought? Killing a blood fiend only took us about 10 minutes. But prying open this damn coffin took us nearly an hour. And that's because the coffin had been nailed shut with 28 solid iron nails. By the time we pried out every last one, my back was completely drenched in sweat. Fourth sister, keep your eyes peeled. These are the 28 constellation soul-suppressing nails. Whoever designed this tomb wanted the corpse to turn into a blood fiend, cursing him to never be reincarnated for all eternity. But that flash flood in Shushui village caused a little hiccup. It ended up turning the wife buried alive alongside him into a blood fiend first. Sealed away again? So, is this coffin actually safe right now? I asked nervously. It should be fine, but it's definitely better to have fourth sister keeping guard, old Zhang muttered, as he motioned for me to help push off the coffin lid. Helen Shui just stood there, her sword drawn and ready, her eyes practically radiating killer intent. But after we got the coffin open, absolutely none of the terrifying jump scares we were expecting actually happened. Inside, there was just a shriveled up skeleton, but its face was twisted in pure agony. Its jaw cracked wide open, as if right before it died, it had suffered some kind of unimaginable despair and torture. And there, on the underside of the coffin lid, were lines upon lines of words written in blood. It looked exactly like a millennium-old death curse. And when I saw the frantic scratch marks completely covering those bloody words, it instantly hit me. This dried-up corpse, or rather, Wen Dao, didn't die naturally from some illness at all. He was nailed inside this coffin and suffocated to death, completely alive. I ran my fingers over that dried blood, and a long-buried secret slowly began to unravel. It turns out that in his later years, Wen Dao stumbled upon an ancient scroll by pure chance. It contained the records of an absolutely mind-blowing, world-shaking tomb. And for a guy who started out as a tomb raider, it was nothing short of the greatest challenge of his life. But when he set out with 10,000 tomb raiders, he also suffered the most devastating defeat of his life. The blood-ridden message didn't say exactly what he went through. It only said they encountered a curse from the underworld. Thousands of his tomb raiders lost their lives. Wen Dao himself fell severely ill. Yet, the deadlier it seemed, the more of an absolute, fatal temptation that tomb became for him. He even gave up his royal title, shutting himself away in his manor. He ran endless simulations on how to break the curse, desperate for a second descent. However, when the news reached the emperor, the rumors twisted it into Wen Dao plotting a rebellion. To save his own skin, Wen Dao simply faked his death from illness. He hoped to use this to escape Luoyang, but the emperor already knew everything. The emperor personally oversaw the funeral, and had Wen Dao's coffin nailed shut. He was buried in the barren wastelands of western Fujian, with a royal decree that this traitor would never find peace in the afterlife. At the very end of the bloody message, Wen Dao left a vicious curse, swearing that the later Tang dynasty would fall in its second generation. He also revealed that the nameless ancient scroll was right inside the bronze box he carried. All of his precious notes from that tomb and his raiding insights were marked directly on the scroll. He hoped that whoever was fated to find it could finish what he started, a second descent into Yingshu. What did you say that tomb was called? Old Zhang asked, his voice full of shock. Yingshu, I replied. What confused me was, Wen Dao's bizarre history earlier didn't spark old Yang's interest at all. But the moment I mentioned the word Yingshu, his entire expression shifted. Even Helen, standing behind us, looked deeply unsettled. But no matter how much I pressed him, old Zhang absolutely refused to tell me anything. He just kept repeating the same thing. Kid, I'm keeping my mouth shut for your own good. Left with no choice, I turned my attention back to the corpse. And the bronze box clutched tightly in its arms. The box was perfectly square. Each side was engraved with exquisite patterns, but the designs were all scrambled up. It looked exactly like a Rubik's Cube waiting to be solved. Only, I didn't know why. These jumbled patterns gave me a strange sense of déjà vu. Like I had seen them somewhere before. Without thinking, I reached out to touch it. Don't touch it, that's a rare puzzle box. One wrong move, and whatever is inside gets destroyed. Just as old Zhang carefully prepared to lift the box out, he let out a sudden curse. Because even the slightest movement caused the jumbled patterns on the surface to shift. Wen Dao truly was the king of tomb robbers. This meant our plan to take the box back and use the Qilin team's power to crack it was totally ruined. We either had to open it right here, or pack up and go home. Well, looks like there really are puzzles in this world that even I can't crack. Old Zhang sighed heavily, then turned to Helen Shui for help. But Helen Shui just shook her head. After all, with only one chance, nobody wanted to take that gamble. But right then, that deep, nagging feeling of familiarity was only getting stronger. It felt as if that bronze carving had been waiting 1,000 years, just for me to open it. Maybe I could give it a try, I murmured, driven by some inexplicable force. Old Zhang and He Lanshui both stared at me in absolute disbelief. In their eyes, I was nothing more than a greenhorn, a total rookie from the archaeology department. Without waiting for their permission, I went straight to work, relying on that intense telepathic connection. It only took me 5 minutes to unlock this seemingly impossible box and reveal its true form. It turned out that every side of this bronze casket was engraved with a gold-flecked underworld beast. Except, the beasts on all 6 sides were completely different. There was Chaos, Changqi, Teoti, Wujiki, and so on. All of them were legendary, named monsters straight out of the classic of mountains and seas. These fierce beasts intertwined with one another, circling around a bizarre, massive eye. Then, the unthinkable happened. The moment the puzzle was perfectly aligned. With a sharp click, the box miraculously split right down the middle. A cloud of ancient dust billowed out, revealing a thick stack of parchment scrolls hidden inside. It actually opened. Kid, how the hell did you do that? Old Zhang was looking at me like I was some kind of freak. I let out a bitter laugh and replied, if I told you that the exact patterns on this box are tattooed right on my back, would you even believe me? To prove I wasn't crazy, I stripped off my shirt, immediately exposing my bare back to them. Those 6 terrifying beasts on my skin, and especially that incredibly lifelike eye in the center, made the room so dead silent that you could hear a pin drop. Under old Yang's relentless questioning, I was pulled deep into my memories. My hometown rained constantly. Lightning strikes would frequently fry the plow cattle and shatter the trees. That's why the locals called it Thundertown. There was only one family living in Thundertown, our family. Generation after generation. I never knew why, but growing up, almost no one in our clan ever traveled far. And we were bound by 3 incredibly bizarre rules. First, every newborn baby had to be branded with a mysterious tattoo. Namely, the mark of the 6 gold-flecked beasts of the underworld. Second, regardless of being a man or a woman, the exact moment someone turned 40 years old, they had to retire to the ancestral hall, completely cutting themselves off from the outside world forever. They weren't even allowed to see their own children. And third, we were forbidden from marrying women from outside towns, forbidden from studying elsewhere, and absolutely forbidden from working out of town. These 3 rules felt like 3 crushing iron shackles, nailing the Li family to Thundertown for good. Sure, some rebellious kids didn't buy into the superstition and tried to make it in the outside world. But it never took long before the tragic news of their deaths trickled back to our town. Not a single one of them lived past 40. The clan elder always said this was the ultimate price of defying the rules. He claimed that only the lightning could shield the Li family from the deadly curse of our 40th year. But I grew up obsessed with books, so I knew all this was just toxic, backward superstition. Even worse, I watched with my own eyes as my parents, the very year they turned 40, were violently dragged away by a group of burly men in a bloody, dragged right into the ancestral hall. Little Lan, my parents' hoarse, desperate screams back then, they filled me with a deep, bitter hatred for Lei Town. So, one night, I packed up and left that disgusting place for good. I wandered all the way to Beeping for school, and eventually, I actually got accepted into the Academia Sinica. Did the people in Lei Town ever tell you what this tattoo actually means? No, I shook my head. Old Zhang took a deep breath. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now. This is the emblem of the Wazi army, led by Wen Dao. Legend has it that every time Wen Dao raided a major tomb, he would offer up 6 animal sacrifices, just to appease the wrath of the 6 guardian beasts. Those 6 guardian beasts were Hundan, Changqi, Ji, Teoti, Shang, and Wujiki, and it was exactly the protection of these fierce monsters that gave Wen Dao powers like he was backed by ghosts and gods. He was completely unstoppable. The reason I didn't dare touch it is because the odds of opening this copper box are 1 in 10,000. But you popped it open on your very first try. Looks like you have some deep roots with Wen Dao. Roots. I was completely lost, scratching my head. Helen Shui, standing off to the side, asked calmly, "What is your name?" Li Jinglin. And after Wen Dao was crowned king, what surname was he bestowed? Li. I blurted it out without thinking, and then it hit me. Could it be? Is the Li family in Lei Town actually descended from the tomb-raiding king, Wen Dao? So that's why they knew about the secret emblem of the Wazi army. Seeing me finally piece it all together, Old Zhang and Helen Shui just gave a faint smile. Old Zhang even slapped me on the shoulder. "Kid, do you have any idea how incredibly important this parchment is to the Qilin? Looks like I really struck gold this time." He looked me up and down, and it was pretty obvious I was the gold he was talking about. After that, Old Zhang cut the chatter. He just snapped on his gloves and rolled out the parchment from the box. This thick bundle of material, when fully unrolled, it was actually a whole meter wide and 2 meters long. It was absolutely covered in tiny, dense characters and bizarre symbols. The smallest letters were even tinier than ants. Old Zhang pulled a spray bottle out of his backpack and misted some kind of unknown liquid all over the parchment. As if she knew exactly what I was going to ask, Helen Shui explained softly. "This liquid creates a protective seal. It completely blocks out the oxygen. If we didn't do this, the second we brought the parchment out of the cave, it would turn to dust the moment it hit the harsh sunlight." Even though her voice was cold, it was incredibly beautiful, like a gentle breeze carrying the scent of wild orchids. Old Zhang then made 6 rubbings of the engravings on the copper box, before finally leading us out of that bloody cave. By the time we made it out of the mountains, it was already the early hours of the next morning. Staring out at the misty green mountains in the distance, I asked Old Zhang, "Is that it? Is it really over?" Old Zhang gave a cryptic smile. "Over? Kid, you just had a dream, that's all." He told me that the Qilin operatives would handle the cleanup. The tomb would be completely sealed off, and the corpses in that river of blood would be properly buried. Shushui village would be scrubbed spotless, and a whole new batch of faces would move in. Nothing ever happened in Shushui village. That would be the official story for the outside world. I couldn't help but gasp. Even though it's a poor choice of words, this is what you'd truly call dead men tell no tales. He Lanshui escorted us all the way to Piping, then hopped on another train right out of there. She had other missions to take care of. Old Zhang stood on his tiptoes, gazing longingly after his 4th sister. This whole scene actually cracked me up. Turns out this old geezer actually has such an adorable side. But the moment we got back to Qilin headquarters, Old Zhang snapped right back into serious mode. He whispered something to a middle-aged guy wearing glasses, and that guy immediately ordered everyone on the entire 1st floor to drop whatever they were doing and start hunting for clues. Suddenly, the whole floor was ringing with the beep 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 of telegraph machines. I knew right then, this massive intelligence department was shifting into high gear. As for Old Zhang, he and a bunch of guys who looked like experts holed up in a tiny room, studying that piece of parchment we brought back. Tried to peek in a few times, but the guards at the door stopped me dead in my tracks, saying I didn't have clearance for top secret intel. So, I was stuck just killing time, flipping through books, or playing around with that golden tortoiseshell cat we brought along. Since this fierce little fella went absolutely crazy for meaty bones, I even named him Big Tiger. Old Zhang didn't step out of that room for 3 whole days and nights. The only time that door cracked open was when someone from the 1st floor rushed up with an urgent intel report. Just a tiny sliver, and then it slammed shut right after. But every now and then, I could hear them shouting and arguing in there. Or even the sound of cups smashing against the wall. What in the world was written on that parchment? What kind of massive roadblock did they hit? It wasn't until the morning of the 4th day. I was still sleeping in when suddenly, someone tapped my shoulder. I opened my eyes and saw Old Zhang, sporting a massive pair of dark circles under his eyes. Seeing me awake, he quickly forced out a big, cheesy smile. "Are you hungry?" he asked. "What do you want to eat?" I mumbled, "Got any douji and fried dough rings?" And would you believe it? Less than 10 minutes later, old Zhang brought a piping hot, golden, and crispy breakfast. And set it right in front of me. Staring at old Zhang playing the ultimate kiss-up out of nowhere. My guard instantly went up. I narrowed my eyes and asked, "Master, what the heck is wrong with you?" "No, no, no. You are my master," old Zhang cried out. I choked and literally spat out a mouthful of douji, splattering more than half of it right on his face. Did staring at that parchment actually fry his brain? Old Zhang looked like he was about to explode. He quickly smoothed out his wrinkles into a creepy, beaming smile. He just wiped the douji off with his sleeve, and started fetching books for me, and then feeding the cat. When noon rolled around, he actually asked me what I wanted for lunch. My eyes darted around, and I said, "Well, what if I want some mutton hot pot?" And sure enough, old Zhang actually hauled in a traditional copper pot, along with 2 massive boxes of freshly sliced mutton. He just sat there, chopping up chive flowers, staring at me like a puppy while I cooked the meat. Later that night, I casually mentioned that I hadn't had Quanjued roast duck in a while. Old Zhang just chimed, "You got it," and sprinted to the cafeteria to fetch me a piping hot one. And that's exactly how we spent that bizarre, incredibly weird day. The very next morning, I decided to give. I threw old Zhang a curveball, saying I really wanted some authentic Lanzhou beef noodles, since the Qilin headquarters is located in the outskirts of Piping. In a completely desolate and uninhabited area, this was practically an impossible task. Old Zhang obviously knew I was just pushing my luck, but he headed downstairs anyway. About 4 hours went by before he came back, sweating bullets, and set down a bowl with a rich, thick broth, floating with red chili oil. Lanzhou beef noodles, right in front of me. Just from the smell alone, I knew it was 100% authentic. Only later did I find out that Qilin had actually used their intelligence network to track down, from the old Piping hutongs, a Wei uncle, and even dug up a top-secret beef noodle recipe straight from Lanzhou, just to make this one bowl for me. "So, spit it out. What exactly do you need me to do?" I asked, letting out a loud burp after finishing the noodles. Seeing old Zhang still hemming and hawing, I immediately lost my patience and snapped, "I can already see your foxtail showing. If you don't tell me right now, I'm going to sleep." Finally, old Zhang let out a bitter smile. "We might need you to take us on a trip to Lei Town. I am not going back to that cursed place even if you beat me to death." I blurted out instinctively, but then I quickly noticed the dead serious look on old Yang's face. "Is it because of that parchment scroll? You guys are so powerful, and you still can't crack it?" Things have escalated way beyond our expectations. This scroll isn't actually made of sheepskin. It was flayed from the skin of a living human. And the most crucial part is, Wen Dao recorded all his bizarre encounters down in the Yin ruins, along with a massive secret he uncovered while tomb raiding. And it's all written in a type of language that has never existed in this world before. Qilin has been trying for 3 whole days, but we can't find a single dictionary for this text. What kind of text? A language used exclusively to communicate with spirits. We call it genuine. Lei Town is our last hope. If you really are that person's descendant, then there absolutely has to be someone in your hometown who can read this. Fine, I can take you guys back. But you have to agree to 3 conditions. What conditions? Old Zhang said that as long as it didn't violate Qilin's core principles, he would agree to anything. Alright then, the first condition. He smiled and held up one finger. "From now on, no more keeping secrets from me." "You mean?" Old Zhang was actually still playing dumb. I wasn't going to let him off the hook, so I cut straight to the chase. "Tell me, what exactly are the Yin ruins? And I want to know absolutely everything. You guys know about my origins." "My dear apprentice, we can take our time and talk about all of that on the road," old Zhang chuckled nervously. Now I was getting annoyed. I deliberately put on a cold face and said, "You know, I have this really bad habit. Whenever I get annoyed, my memory suddenly starts failing me." "Lei Town? Where even is Lei Town? Have I ever been there?" Dealing with a little terror like me, for the very first time, old Zhang felt a deep sense of total helplessness. He looked at me with an incredibly solemn and heavy gaze, and just like that, it lasted for a whole minute before saying, "Do you really want to know?" For a rookie, knowing too much means you're one step closer to the grave. "I'm down for it." I crossed my legs. "Fine." Old Zhang checked his watch. 2nd floor meeting room in half an hour. After saying that, he walked away without looking back. He seemed pretty pissed. He even slammed the door hard as he left, leaving a loud bang echoing behind him. Watching old Zhang walk away, I let out a heavy sigh. I had to make a trip back to Lei Town. Even if old Zhang hadn't begged me, I would have gone alone, because I had this strong gut feeling that this trip would uncover the truth about my past. But right behind that gut feeling was a dark sense of dread. There was a massive conspiracy just waiting for me in Lei Town. This journey was going to be a total suicide mission. So before I leave, I at least want to know what I'm dying for. Half an hour flew by. I couldn't wait any longer and rushed over to the second floor meeting room. The room was huge. In the middle sat a long rosewood table. On the wall behind it was a carving of a black Qilin, galloping with its 4 claws. Old Zhang was already sitting at the corner of the table, waiting for me with a dark look on his face. To my surprise, there was also a middle-aged man in the room. He had slicked back hair and a dead serious expression. Seeing me walk in, the man slid a piece of paper right in front of me, telling me to sign and put my thumbprint on it. I squinted to read it. It seemed to be a list of rules, saying you couldn't tell your parents or kids, and you even had to keep secrets from the brothers who fight and die beside you. Simply put, you had to take every secret to your grave. We were going to wait a bit longer, but to keep your Royal Highness happy, we had to let you join the organization early. Old Zhang sighed and went to light a cigarette, but after the middle-aged man snapped, "No smoking." He got spooked and quickly put his lighter away. It suddenly dawned on me. So, these were all the necessary steps to become a Qilin. And only after becoming a true Qilin could he tell me the top secret intel. The final step was the oath. My youthful voice echoed through the meeting room. I swear to voluntarily join the Qilin, to protect our nation's treasures in my own unique way. Whether surrounded by enemies or bleeding until the very end, China will always stand above all else in my heart. To be honest, when I was reading those words, I didn't really feel much. It wasn't until later, after experiencing so much sacrifice and parting ways, that I finally understood what Qilin truly meant. So much so, that every time I think about it, my eyes well up with tears. Seeing the oath was done, the middle-aged man nodded. Only then did old Zhang pull down a white screen, and using a film projector, he threw up a massive photograph. The picture was super blurry. It looked like it was taken in a rush from a really, really high altitude. I could only vaguely make out endless, rolling hills. There are also rows of perfectly square dirt pits. The weird thing is, the longer I stare at the photo, the more it feels like all these things form a creepy, square human face. This face is massive, easily covering tens of thousands of square meters. Where the eyes should be, there are just 2 huge black holes. And its mouth is shaped like the ancient Chinese character for door. It looks like a giant, gaping maw, ready to swallow every living soul for miles around straight into the abyss. When I close my eyes, I can almost hear the sound of bones being crushed. That awful crunching sound. This is the face of a demon. Fear slithered up my spine like a cold snake. It chilled me to the bone. And for some reason, I couldn't shake the feeling that this square, demonic face was smiling right at me. In my days, I even saw a group of strange, shirtless little figures. They were holding bizarre bronze instruments, performing some kind of dark ritual right on that face. They stared at me with lifeless eyes, waving their hands, as if they were saying, "Come here, this is your real home." "Where on earth is this?" I asked. "The ruins of Yin." Old Zhang glanced at the beads of sweat on my forehead, and gave a cold smirk. "What? Half an hour ago you were practically begging me, and now you're getting cold feet?" It turns out that the ruins of Yin wasn't just a single ancient tomb. It was a massive complex of tombs, or rather, a lost kingdom. Located in Anyang, it was the capital established by the people of the Shang dynasty. After they migrated there, legend has it that the Shang people were incredibly warlike, and they fiercely worshipped dark gods. So, whether it was their daily life, or going off to conquer new lands, everything revolved around blood rituals. For minor rituals, they slaughtered animals. But for the major ones, they used living people. Some sacrificial pits were even filled to the brim with the blood of thousands of victims. It was absolutely horrifying. But despite all that darkness, the Shang dynasty was actually the very first dynasty in Chinese history to have written records. They pioneered the Bronze Age. It's just a shame that when the dynasty fell, the very last king of Shang cast an eternal curse on both his enemies and himself. That curse caused the entire capital to sink deep underground forever, becoming the ruins of Yin we see today. Old Zhang told me that Qilin had gone to extraordinary lengths to get this photo. He borrowed a high-altitude reconnaissance plane and snapped it from 1,000 meters up in the clouds. It might be blurry, but it's more than enough to show just how massive the ruins really are. That's exactly why everyone in the organization is taking this place so seriously. Being the very first dynasty in history, who knows how many priceless bronze artifacts and dark, forgotten secrets are buried down there. But make no mistake, this is an evil place. A genuinely cursed ground. Old Zhang let out a heavy sigh and told me that throughout history, countless groups of grave robbers have set their sights on the ruins. But none of them ever found the real entrance. They all just walked blindly into deadly traps, and died in the most gruesome ways imaginable. According to unofficial historical records, back in the Qin dynasty, a man named Feng Li led over 50 bandits straight into the ruins. Before they even started digging, it was like they drank some kind of bewitching potion. They completely lost their bearings. A whole group of them actually starved to death just from getting lost. Back in the late Eastern Han dynasty, Cao Cao also dispatched his Mojin captains to scout out the Yin ruins. At the time, they dug robbers' tunnels for 3 whole days. But they couldn't even find the ancient tomb, so they had to return empty-handed. But those returning Mojin captains, even with their Mojin amulets protecting them, still couldn't escape their fate. They either gouged out their own eyes, or ripped out their own tongues, or violently slaughtered each other. In the end, they all died brutally. This was also the Mojin captains' one and only miserable defeat. The Yin ruins were just like a man-eating monster. No matter who went in, they'd ultimately just become buried sacrifices. The locals even called it the ghost-forsaken place, meaning it's a place even ghosts wouldn't dare approach. For thousands of years, anyone making it out of the Yin ruins alive. There was only one exception, and that was my ancestor, the tomb-raiding king, Wen Dao. Even though Wen Dao also failed, he actually found the real entrance. You could say he was the absolute closest anyone had gotten to the Yin ruins in centuries. If he just had a little more time, maybe on his second attempt, he really could have cracked open the gates to the Yin ruins. Such a pity this grand general, even with his mind entirely consumed by the Yin ruins, was suspected of treason. He himself was nailed inside a coffin and suffocated alive, and his entire clan was slaughtered. Speaking of this, old Zhang shared his own theory. He figured since Wen Dao started out as a tomb raider, he definitely had backup plans. There's no way he just let the emperor wipe his whole family out in one fell swoop. He probably had his kids make a run for it beforehand, escorted by his most trusted sappers. After that, they spent their lives dodging assassins and hiding in the shadows, eventually settling down in what is now Lei Town. Even though hundreds of years have passed, they'd still get those tattoos, reminding future generations that they carry Wen Dao's blood. And Wen Dao, holding onto that human skin scroll completely filled with secrets, lies quietly in Shushui village, just waiting for his descendants to find him. Even to this day, the only thing recording the true entrance to the Yin ruins is that very human skin scroll. When Wen Dao descended into the Yin ruins the first time, what exactly did he run into? What kind of curse did he actually get hit with? For Qilin, that is absolutely vital intelligence. Raiding this kind of Super S-class megatomb? It's downright impossible without solid intel. Sending in Black Blade Qilin agents is just tossing their lives away. So, you have to take me on a trip to Lei Town. Let us see exactly what's written on that human skin scroll. This isn't just my idea, you know. It's an order directly from the highest leader of Qilin. At that moment, I was still reeling in absolute shock. But old Zhang wasn't in any rush. He just held a cigarette right under his nose, sniffing it while waiting for me to process everything. Seeing old Zhang craving a smoke like that, the middle-aged man gave a slight shake of his head. He took the documents I had just signed and left. But before walking out, he didn't forget to warn him. Remember, there is strictly no smoking in the hall. Oh, come on, Director Lin, I'd never. Rules are rules, right? Old Zhang grinned widely as he replied. Turns out, that middle-aged man was Qilin's head of discipline. No wonder old Zhang looked so on edge around him. But the literal second Director Lin's footsteps faded away. Old Zhang hurriedly lit up his smoke. Took 2 deep drags of the cigarette, his face showing absolute bliss. He totally missed my frantic winks and desperate hints. Pretty soon, old Zhang ended up locking eyes with Director Lin, who had marched right back. In that split second, old Yang's face looked exactly like a guy caught cheating. Caught you red-handed, don't act like I don't know you. Director Lin barked in anger. That is one minor demerit for you. Eventually, the only ones left in the conference room were me, staring at the Yin ruins photos in a cold sweat, and old Zhang, cursing at his half-smoked cigarette. We sat there like that for a bit, before I turned to old Zhang and said, I think the sooner, the better. Let's hit the road tomorrow morning. And now, I am calling in my second condition. You have to listen to me all the way to Lei Town. My plan is simple. I will still be Li Jinglin, the kid who ran away from Lei Town years ago. Only difference is, I went off to study in England. Now, I am a student returning from abroad, feeling all homesick and nostalgic. So I am bringing my trusty butler, old Zhang, back to Lei Town to visit family. Honestly, this is the perfect cover. Because from what I remember, the folks in Lei Town are incredibly hostile to outsiders. Old Zhang kept praising my genius, and immediately hurried off to follow my orders. He drove out to buy our outfits, while I headed back to my room. I specifically practiced rattling off some English phrases in the mirror. To really sell the act, I had to completely transform myself into a guy who spoke fluent English, mixed with Chinese. The absolute trendiest guy in the whole Republican era. Old Zhang was back before long. He had bought himself a gray plaid suit, and paired it with a wildly flashy red tie. Once I changed into my student uniform, and put on my gold-rimmed glasses, I stepped out of the room and threw out an exaggerated greeting. Hello there, my dear butler Zhang. Old Zhang was totally blown away by my acting skills, swearing he did not even recognize me anymore. We booked our train tickets to Hubei, and hopped right on board. Old Zhang had even packed a massive bag of beeping pastries and other gifts. He said he wanted the good folks of Lei Town to have a taste. I nodded to myself in approval. Looks like this young drama king had finally rubbed off on an old drama king. Once on the train, I just focused on playing with Big Tiger. That is my pet. Golden-spotted tortoiseshell cat. Whenever I wanted a coffee or some lunch, I would just snap my fingers and order old Zhang to go buy it. I would casually drop a yes or no here and there, which totally made the female train conductor bat her eyelashes at me non-stop. She honestly thought I was some rich, Western-educated young master, hoping to spark up a steamy little train ride romance with me. I flirted right back, tossing out some English mixed with a little bit of Chinese. By the end of it, I had actually smooth-talked my way into a whole pocketful of candy. Even the cat in my arms got to enjoy some serious VIP treatment. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he fell fast asleep. A full day and night later, we finally pulled into a tiny little station right on the border of Jingmen and Yichang. Carrying our suitcases, old Zhang respectfully ushered me off the train. At the very last second, that incredibly gorgeous female conductor secretly slipped a little note into my hand, blushing hard as she stepped back aboard. Just goes to show the charm of our little trio. An old man, a young guy, and a cat. I glanced at the little note. While leading old Zhang south, the note had the stewardess's name written on it, Lin Choeui. Too bad this place was exactly as desolate as I remembered. The tiny station was completely empty, let alone having any rickshaws around. We had no choice but to walk. Old Zhang was pretty patient at first, but after walking for a few hours, he finally lost it. He kept rushing me every 5 minutes. Aren't you supposed to be a master? Even masters get tired? Cut the crap. You're not the one carrying the luggage. I'm so starved my stomach is touching my spine. Old Zhang cursed loudly. Watch your tone. Since when does a butler talk to his young master like that? I teased him on purpose, then pulled a piece of candy from my pocket and shoved it in his mouth to shut him up. By now, the cat in my arms was also starving and dizzy. He kept letting out these low, grumpy growls, venting his frustration. Li Jinglin, you didn't lead us the wrong freaking way, did you? Finally, staring out at the endless, empty wilderness, even old Zhang was starting to lose hope. I told him not to worry. I'd remember this road even if it turned to ashes. When I was a kid, I swam across the Zhang River and stumbled my way out through here. Every single tree, every blade of grass on this path is burned into my memory, because every once in a while, I still run through it in my nightmares. Raging river waters in front of me, and the angry townsfolk with torches chasing right behind me. Just then, the cat in my arms suddenly jolted. His whole body stiffened up, and his ears perked straight up. I thought he had sensed some kind of danger, but then I noticed his little nose twitching, like he was sniffing something out. "Big Tiger, what's wrong?" I asked him. The very next second, this cat suddenly broke free from my arms and sprinted forward with a loud meow. Old Zhang and I had no choice but to chase right after him. Old Zhang was cursing the whole time, yelling that once he caught this fat cat, he'd turn him into a bar snack. After running for over 10 minutes, Old Zhang and I both skidded to a halt, our faces lighting up with joy. Because we saw wisps of cooking smoke drifting up into the sky. Where there's smoke, there's people. At the same time, the savory, charred smell of grilled fish hit our noses. When we finally ran to the spot, we found a crescent-shaped fishing village. There were loads of shirtless fishermen everywhere, cleaning up their fresh catches, and others laying out nets to dry. They all had nice, dark tans, looking tough and healthy. It didn't take long for me to spot Big Tiger, right next to a food stall. This little guy was squatting on the ground, just staring at the stall and drooling. Oh boy, a cat's sense of smell really is no joke. Old Zhang and I were totally exhausted too, so we just plopped down at the stall and asked if they had any local specialties. "I've got a fresh pot of spicy pepper fish soup. You two gentlemen want some? It's our village's signature dish. The fish is incredibly tender and smooth. The soup was milky and pure." That instantly woke up the greedy monsters in my and Old Yang's stomachs. We slapped some cash on the table and told him to serve it up fast. As soon as 2 piping hot bowls of fish soup arrived, we gulped them right down. Da Vu leapt onto the table too, nuzzling against me non-stop. So, I bought another bowl, and told him to go slurp it up on the side. Seeing how generous we were, treating ourselves to 3 whole bowls, the stall owner broke into a huge grin. He asked, "We rarely get outsiders around here. Are you folks lost?" I craned my neck and glanced over at the massive river nearby. "Isn't this the Zhang River?" I asked right back. "You know about the Zhang River, young master?" The boss looked genuinely shocked. Old Zhang chimed in, picking his teeth with a fishbone. "Our young master here was born and raised right across the Zhang River. He just got back from studying overseas and wanted to visit his folks." "Across the river? Don't tell me, you're from Lei Town?" The stall owner's face went pale. He dropped his spoon, and sat down right across from us, whispering that this was his first time ever seeing someone from Lei Town wandering around outside, let alone going abroad. See, Lei Town has this weird rule. They never leave. For generations, they've been isolated on that island across the river. Even when they run out of basic supplies, they only send someone to the nearest fishing village. They absolutely refuse to take a single step further. Suddenly, the stall owner seemed to remember something and muttered to himself. "Now that you mention it, it is weird. Lei Town usually sends someone to buy salt from me at the start of every month. It's already the middle of the month, and nobody's shown up. Have they lost their taste for salt? Or something? Oh, no. Something bad must have happened in Lei Town." Old Zhang and I locked eyes. We both instantly knew we just stumbled onto a crucial clue. So I pushed a little further. "Has anything strange been happening around here lately?" Old Zhang pulled out a silver coin and slapped it on the table. "Our young master loves a good spooky story. If you can entertain him, this shiny coin is all yours." The boss shook his head at first. "Nothing too crazy," he said, but with his eyes glued to that silver coin. He racked his brain. Suddenly, he smacked his forehead. "Oh, right, a couple of nights ago, the Dragon King was out patrolling the river." "The Dragon King on patrol?" Seeing we were hooked, the boss started spilling all the details. "Just 2 nights back, right across the Zhang River, these creepy, pale phantom fires suddenly appeared out of nowhere. They didn't have arms or legs, but they were bouncing up and down in the dark. Looked exactly like a haunted graveyard. It was horrifying. There was a lady out fishing in the middle of the night, who accidentally drifted too close to those ghost lights. And guess what? Her boat flipped right over. By the next morning, she was just a lifeless floater in the water. It terrified the villagers so much that they never dared to step out at night again. They all said it was the Dragon King on patrol, and those ghost fires were lanterns carried by his shrimp soldiers and crab generals. Anyone who saw them would be dragged down to the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace." Hearing the food stall owner's words, I furrowed my brows and asked, "Do those ghost fires only appear on the other side of the river?" "That's right," the food stall owner nodded. "Isn't the other side of the river Lei Town?" "It really is. The food stall owner slapped his thigh. The ghost fires just wander around right outside Lei Town, the monthly salt trade being a no-show, and the mysterious ghost fires across the river. Both of these clues were telling old Zhang and me that something had gone terribly wrong in Lei Town. This made our hearts skip a beat, but at the time, we never would have guessed that the real disaster was far more terrifying than we imagined. Thank you, this money is yours, I smiled. After gulping down the last of that bowl of fish soup, one asked the owner if he could do us a favor later. Find a boatman to ferry us across to the other side. The food stall owner looked completely torn. Young master, you're from Lei Town. You should know the rules over there. Lei Town does not welcome outsiders. If they find out we ferried you over, they'll never do business with us again. I knew this perfectly well, of course. So I went with a bit of a compromise. Then, could we just rent a small boat? A wooden raft works too. The food stall owner said that was no problem, his family had one. And so, with the food stall owner's help, old Zhang rowed the boat, while I held the cat, and we slowly drifted toward the opposite bank. As luck would have it, the sky went pitch black halfway there. The thick fog hung over us like a massive pot lid. Looking at that isolated island from a distance, it felt as if it was constantly sending out distress signals to us. I quickly told old Zhang to row faster. Faster, but old Zhang just yelled right back at me. I've been doing all the heavy lifting this whole trip. What kind of apprentice treats their master like this? Quit complaining. Look, we made it to Lei Town. I pointed straight ahead, and old Yang's attention was instantly hooked. Out in the distance, there really was a town sitting right there. On the small island, it's just that this town looked way too ancient, like some old Qing dynasty mansion. And all around the town stood 4 massive stone statues of monsters, like 4 giants standing guard over Lei Town. These stone statues are pretty weird, old Zhang muttered to himself. Right at that moment, a bolt of lightning crashed down. Splat, splat, the little raindrops hit our faces. I knew a storm was going to hit us very soon. I don't know why, but after looking at those 4 stone statues, old Yang's face turned completely pale. He wouldn't even speak to me, just kept rowing the boat straight ahead. Even the cat in my arms puffed up its fur, letting out an anxious meow every now and then. It was as if invisible enemies were lurking inside Lei Town. I stroked Dahu's head and comforted him softly. Right before our eyes, a towering archway shaped like a giant gate came into view. On it, 8 massive characters were written crystal clear. Li family Lei Town, strangers keep out. I gave old Zhang a smug raise of my eyebrows, meaning I definitely hadn't led us the wrong way. Old Zhang still ignored me, and just rode past the stone archway with a stiff look on his face. Pond completely covered in green moss appeared right in front of us. Our boat came to a stop right at that pond. Haha, I, Li Jinglin, have finally returned home in absolute glory. Butler Zhang, don't forget to bring the gifts for the uncles. You know, those pastries we bought from Piping. The second I stepped off the boat, I started shouting at the top of my lungs, hoping to draw all the folks in Lei Town out to see me.